Students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here on Vancouver Island on the west coast of Canada. I hope everybody is having a good start to their weekend. I hope you're all staying healthy, staying strong, and being productive and optimistic. Welcome, Jaineel. Welcome, members. This is a members chat class. Everybody is welcome to watch. In this class, we are focusing on IELTS questions, and I will be giving answers so that you get some further clarity on how to get those Band 9 results. While we wait for some more members to join in, this lesson is presented to you by aehelp.com. That's academicenglishhelp.com. As well as gieltshelp.com. That's generalieltshelp.com. Both of these websites have lots and lots of materials to help you prepare for the academic and general IELTS exams, including practice exams, interactive courses, and lots of HD videos. And of course, they'll have lots of answers to questions that you might have for the IELTS exam. Welcome, Atharwa. Hi, Chabi Khalil. Good to see many of you in the class. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. All you need to do is click this big red button to join the premium package there. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are a British Council IELTS Test Registration Center and certified agents, so you're in good hands with us. General IELTS website, gieltshelp.com, looks very similar with a green background. Click that big red button to join us there. Again, members, now that you're all joining in, this is a Q&A class. It's questions and answers. So go ahead and ask me some questions while we start here. I will be answering your questions in order. So whoever asks me a question first will get an answer question first. Of course, if I see some similar questions, then I'll try to link the answers together. Yeah, Chabi, I realized that you're satisfying times. Yeah, I remember. Okay. Yeah, I got you. All right. So again, on the website, once you register, there are lots of answers to questions, lots of resources for that. In your My Student account, I'll show you where you can get answers to questions that you might not find during this class. So you have, of course, a full online academic IELTS course. You can click on that. That opens up, and then you have key strategies, listening lessons. So there's lots of answers to your questions there. And another place where you'll find answers is up at the top here. You have a forum, a blog, and a contact us. So you'll find lots of answers there as well. Okay, students, tomorrow, a little bit later than this time, so when we have the all chat class time at UTC 14 o'clock, we'll be airing my IELTS Band 9 Journey Episode 4, my test results. So that will be a premiere. Make sure to join us for that. That's kind of exciting. All right. And if you have questions, again, you can always just send an email to adrian@aehelp.com. Now, today we have this class, and then we'll have a speaking part 2 class for everyone. Then Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, no live classes. But again, we'll be airing that HD video tomorrow. Okay. And then we'll have a full week of classes afterwards. Okay. All right. So let's get into some questions and answers from our members. It's one of the many perks of being a member of our channel. So when you become a member of our channel, depending on your subscription, you get access to videos, these members chat only classes, and other goodies. So check that out. Okay, so I see that Atharwa has a question. Atharwa says, sir, I got 5 in reading last time. how can I improve reading? Okay, good question, Atharwa. So you're asking me basically, Atharwa, how can I improve my reading score from a band 5? Okay, so I don't really like to answer questions with questions, but Atharwa, I have a question for you. When you were doing the reading passage, did you read the passage before you answered the questions, or did you try to skim and scan for the answers? So did you actually read the passage? So when you looked at the reading, let's say you have passage 1, you look at the questions that have information which is in the passage, then you read the passage, and then you answer the question. So did you read the passage prior to answering the questions? Okay, let me ask you that question before I can give you a clear answer. All right. The reason I'm asking that, students, is because usually I find that when a candidate gets under band 6, it's because they're skimming and scanning only. Okay, so Atharwa, it's very, very difficult to get over band 6, almost impossible if you're just skim reading the passage. Okay, there's too much paraphrasing between the questions and the passage, so skim reading will not work as a technique to get over band 5. Okay, so Atharwa, my first tip for you is you have to improve your reading fluency so that you can actually read the passage. Okay, so I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Atharwa, but again, the way they design IELTS is that you have to read, and there's a very good reason for that. Okay, in university, the average student will read 150 pages per week. Okay, so if you cannot read an IELTS passage in 20 minutes and answer 12 to 13 questions, you will have extreme difficulty in college or university using English, because again, the average student, so keep that in mind, everyone. The average student is expected to read 150 pages per week or more during full-time studies, which they will be tested on. And in university and college, of course, the added difficulty is that when you're being tested, when you have your exam, you don't actually have the passage with you. So the IELTS, if you think about it, is considerably easier than your college or university, because in college university, you almost have to read more in the given time, and you're being tested without the availability of the passage. So you have to actually memorize the information in the text. Okay, so that's why the way that IELTS puts together these reading passages is they paraphrase it. So the questions that follow the passage don't actually have the same words, so you can't skim read. Okay, again, keep that in mind. So skimming is not an effective strategy, all right? So you have to follow other strategies, Atharwa, and that's a really big lesson, Atharwa, for me to go into all of the strategies of active reading and understanding paraphrasing, but fundamentally you have to read the passage, You have to understand 70%, and then you can get a score that's above 5 and 6. Okay? All right, you're very welcome, Atharwa. All right, so you have to read. There's no shortcut. There's no shortcut. Any person, Atharwa, that tells you online that you can just skim and scan for keywords is lying. It's not true. All right. Janelle is saying, I have enough knowledge in English, grammar, vocabulary, and ideas, but I don't come up with them well in the exam, in writing and speaking module. What can I do? I got 6 band for each module both times. Okay, Janelle, again, so let me follow you up with a question. Because then I will be able to give you a better answer. Are you feeling calm or nervous during the exam? Like on a scale of 1 to 10, what is your test anxiety? So 10 being like you're so nervous that you want to jump out the window, and 1 being you're as cool as a cucumber, as they say. So how anxious, how nervous are you during your IELTS exam? What's your test anxiety from 1 to 10? Okay, jump out the window or cool as a cucumber. What's your test anxiety level, Janelle? Bathula, welcome to our group of members. Send me an email so I can hook you up with those videos and exams. Okay. Mal says 10,000. Okay, that's definitely not good. Janelle says 5 to 6. Yeah, so Janelle, that's a bit high. Okay. So I was thinking about that because I know that in these live classes, Janelle, you do produce some fairly good language. And 5 to 6 is a bit high. Okay. Now, hopefully that's going to be better the next time you sit IELTS because you've done it 2 times. But ideally, your anxiety shouldn't be above a 3. Okay. So test anxiety can be a real problem. So even though I have good English skills, I have trouble producing good communication during IELTS. What can I do? This is basically your question, Janelle. Okay, so firstly, you must be calm and control your anxiety. It is very difficult to communicate in another language when you are nervous. Okay? So you have to stay calm, Janelle. Just take a deep breath. You've done it twice. You've gotten 6 twice. You've got nothing to lose. So stay calm. Okay? All right? That's my first tip. And I know that's kind of like, okay, everybody says that. What else? So I'll give you some more tips here. Also, think about what 9 from 10 people would respond to the question. Okay? Think of stereotypes. So IELTS is kind of interesting this way. You want to produce original language that's your own, but you don't have to produce unique language or unique ideas, okay? So you don't need to be unique, all right? So what I mean by that is think about what 9 out of 10 people would say, okay? So, and practice that at home so that when you're in the IELTS exam, it comes to you quickly, okay? So think about the typical kinds of answers, Janelle, and practice a lot of critical thinking at home. That's my third answer to you, okay? So, Focus a large portion of your studies on critical thinking. So analyzing information from the perspective of what, why, and how. Okay, so training your thinking to use this kind of critical thinking. That's really it, Jaineel. And I mean, you just have to keep doing it and keep doing it and keep doing it. It's something that everybody does throughout their lives, throughout their academic careers. So just get really comfortable doing that. Okay. All right. Let's see. Chabi says, what shall I do to understand the different types of essays and the corresponding strategies? I found that predicting answers helps me a lot with reading and listening. Yeah, definitely inferencing, Chabi, is a really good tip for the reading. Okay. For understanding different types of essays, and how to respond. Yeah, that's a good question. So how do I understand different types of essays and figure out the best response and structure, right? For the argument. Okay, so I'm going to just hop back to the website here, Chabi, for this one, because I really encourage, and I don't know if I've shown you this before, but I do really encourage students to use this resource. Some of your questions they're really good questions, but they're so big that it would take me the entire class to answer the one question. So when you have a chance, Chabi, I'll give you a bit of an answer, but for the detailed answer, check out the blog on the website. This is at aehelp.com that I'm doing this right now. And then we keep improving our blog, so you can even put in task 2 question types. Okay. And hopefully this should, yeah, right away, look at that. It brings it up. So I haven't even tried that, honestly. So search results. And here is IELTS task 2, writing question types and answer strategies blog. Okay. So if I click on read more, then you'll see that here you have a really nice long explanation of what you should be doing to answer these different types of essay questions, okay? Because there are lots of them, and they do require a different strategy depending on the question. So some questions ask you to discuss both sides. Some questions ask you to agree or disagree and support your opinion. Some questions are open questions, like what are the solutions, what are the problems. So these kinds of questions do all require a different type of response. And of course, look at the different essay types on the website, and in your course, we give examples for each of these. Now, the fundamental information that you have to know to write a good essay for IELTS are the basics of essay writing, okay? So I'm going to say, firstly, it is very important to be clear on the fundamentals of essay writing. By that I mean knowing the difference among descriptive, expository, persuasive, narrative writing, first, second, and third person voice of the author, literary devices, okay, essay structure such as hook, thesis, topic sentence, explanations, examples, okay? Because often you hear teachers say, oh, it's supporting points. Well, what's a supporting point, right? That's very, very general, okay? So become familiar with those, Chabi. Read that blog. And then if you still have some questions, let me know, okay? Because there's lots of different question types. You need to have the right strategy. What's most important is that you answer all elements of the question and you structure your essay according to the question, okay? So importantly, answer all elements of task 2 questions accurately. Okay. I hope that helps. I know that's a bit of a general answer, Chubby, but again, that's such a big question that we could just spend all class going into more and more detail about the different question types and the different approaches to each one. Chabi also is saying afterwards, just I want to emphasize that point because that's a good point. So Chabi says, I found that predicting answers helps me a lot with reading and listening. That's called inferencing, okay? So for everybody out there, so to predict answers in reading and listening sections, you are inferencing. Okay, so inferencing means to use available information and logic for accurate predictions. Okay, and there are lots of really great tutorials and lots of really great information on how to maximize inferencing. So maximizing the skill of inferencing. In fact, in university, one of the main skills that you learn, regardless of your major, throughout your 5, 7, 8 years of study, is how to inference better and better and better. It's a big goal of humans to inference, to predict the future, predict the weather, predict the outcome of a research project. So, of course, there's a lot of study that goes into how to inference. So how to formulate a hypothesis, right, is another way to say it, right? So when you have a chance, Google ways to improve inferencing, okay? By inferencing, and by learning that, you're going to really help many parts of your life, not just for the IELTS, but also in your work, in your family life, in your love life. So ways to improve inferencing, okay? By inferencing, you improve your ability to formulate a hypothesis. Okay, so that's a really good tip, Chabi. Thank you for sharing that about predictions. That's a little bit more on that, okay? Nikhil Paste says, in reading passage 2 or 3, when matching heading questions is asked, I face some difficulties to separate the main idea and supporting details for each paragraph. So how should I find the main idea? Okay, Nikhil. How can I separate the main idea from the supporting points in reading passage paragraphs so that I can answer list of headings accurately? Okay, that is a good question. All right. Here, I'll give you an answer. So, in most body paragraphs, the main idea is the topic sentence found in the first 1 to 2 sentences. Not always, but often. of the paragraph. Okay. In the introduction, the main idea can be identified from the hook and the background. Okay. And in the conclusion, the main idea can be found from the restated argument. Importantly, ask yourself, what is this paragraph about? Okay. Now, Nikhil, a way that you can improve that, okay, if you're having a lot of difficulty, is work in partners. So work with another person. Each of you read the same paragraph in the passage, and then you ask the other person, what is this paragraph about, after you have already written down what you think is the paragraph is about. And if they have a different answer, then ask them, like, why is that your answer? So understand a different person's logic of how they come to the main idea. Okay, so get somebody else to give perspective on the main idea. Okay, it's a very, very good exercise. Okay, so it is a really good idea to practice list of heading questions in small groups where each person or each member independently identifies what the paragraph is about. Then discuss agreements and disagreements. Okay, that will help you to develop that skill of identifying what the paragraph is about. So if you have some IELTS study partners, then definitely do that. Okay. All right. Bethula says, this is my first time to IELTS. How can I get 7 band? Okay, all right, Bethula, it's a good question. So, Bethula says, how can I get a band 7 in IELTS? Okay, so band 7, just so everybody's clear, equals a good user of English. Okay, so this is one step above a fluent user, and it is equal to a native speaker at the grade 11 level. Okay. So if you were to give the IELTS exam to grade 11 students, I would wager that about half of them would score roughly 7 to 7.5 on the IELTS exam. Okay, so a large part of the group, the mean of the group, some would score a little bit lower and some would probably score a little bit higher. But the average grade 11 student in Canada, US, Australia, the UK would score about a band 7 if you gave them the IELTS exam today without any practice. So that means that that's what a good user of the English language is considered. Okay, so you have to reach that level. How do you reach that level? Okay, so first of all, you have to practice English a lot. You have to use it on a daily basis. Okay, so to reach a band 7, you have to have years of English practice, and you should be using it on a daily basis. Okay, so there aren't really any tricks to getting a band 7 consistently. You might get super lucky, but we don't usually plan our lives around winning the lottery. So don't plan your life around being really lucky for the IELTS exam. You actually have to reach this level, this band 7 level, okay? Band 7, don't forget, it's enough for people to get into master's degrees, okay? So just think about that, right? If you have a band 7 on the IELTS, you can go into a master's program for business, for many other majors in a university. So it's a pretty decent level of English, right? And again, students forget that. IELTS is not an ESL exam, it's an English proficiency exam. So it's taken by native speakers as well, okay? Sometimes people say to me, oh, Adrian, you teach ESL. No, I don't. I teach for a standardized English proficiency exam. And some students that I've had over the years were not non-native speakers, but I've had many native speakers over the years that took the IELTS exam and took a couple of lessons to understand the exam better, okay? So IELTS is not an ESL, it's an English proficiency test. It's taken by native speakers as well. And a band 7 is a grade 11 level. You have to use English on a daily basis. And you have to understand the fundamentals of not only English, but also good communication, okay? So you must not only have clarity on English grammar and at least 3,000 vocabulary base, but you must also have clarity on good communication strategies, such as reflective speaking, fundamentals of English literature, and so forth, just like a grade 11 student, okay? So a grade 11 high school student in their first year of high school in Canada, let's say, will not only by that point be able to speak English well, they will understand English grammar to a certain degree, they will have lots of vocabulary, but by that time, they've also studied quite a bit on good communication strategies. So how to understand and interpret the speaker or the reading passage, and also how to produce accurate, concise, clear responses to questions, whether verbally in speaking communication or in written communication. So a grade 11 student has written lots of essays. Essay writing starts in about grade 8, grade 7, grade 8. So they have about 3-4 years of essay writing skills behind them, learning different styles of essay writing. And presentations in Canadian, American, British schools, so presenting information to the classroom, they start that quite early. I remember doing presentations as early as grade 4. Okay, I'll never forget this presentation that I did on the emu bird. The emu bird kind of looks like an ostrich. And that was one of my very first presentations in grade 4. So in these societies, in these Western societies, they practice that verbal communication from a very early age at the professional level. And so they build that up, and that's kind of connected to the speaking interview of the IELTS exam. That's going to be connected to our speaking part 2 cue card, which we will do in the next class, okay? So you have to focus on communication skills as well as English skills, okay? So a lot of students, when they learn IELTS, they focus a lot on their English skills, like grammar and vocabulary, but they don't focus enough on their communication skills. So I think one big tip that I can give you for sure, Bethula, is to make sure that you're focusing your studies on your communication skills in English, not just your English skills of grammar and vocabulary. By the way, there's lots of information in the courses at ahelp.com and jlshelp.com on improving communication. That's one of our advantages as an IELTS company, is that we realize and respect this need for teaching this communication. Okay, so check that out. Okay, is that clear, Bethula? So are you understanding what it means to be a good user of the English language? And that's so between band 6 and 7 is where communication starts to become really important, because band 6 in IELTS is what's called a fluent speaker of the English language. And a fluent speaker just means that somebody can talk continuously or listen to continuous information. Band 7 means that they can communicate well. Band 8 means that they can communicate very well. And a band 9 means that they're basically expert communicators using English. Okay, that's a very, very difficult score to get. Okay. So hopefully, Bathula, that gives you some clarity on what you need to focus on. Okay. You're very welcome, Chabi. Thank you, Chabi, for sharing some tips like taking the peppermint candy or lozenge. We call it a peppermint lozenge to reduce stress. Okay. Bakrat, matching headings. You have to answer those questions after each paragraph by identifying what each paragraph is about. And very importantly, Bakrat, you have to think about what the paragraph is about on your own, and then look at the choices, not look at the choices before you think. So that's what's really important to matching headings, okay? There's a full HD video on our YouTube channel. So everybody who's watching, make sure to subscribe to the channel, because there's lots and lots of answers there as well. And Bakrat, if you look for that reading video, it'll be in the reading playlist as well, the reading videos playlist. There'll be a video that focuses purely on list of headings, and then there's another one that focuses purely on true, false, not given. Okay. All right. Sumit says, hello, Adrian. I'm sitting my CD IELTS on the 28th of September. Do you mean your computer-based IELTS? On the 28th of September, I just want to ask, what should I go with, writing task 1 or 2 first? Sumit, always go with writing task 1 first. Okay, so it's a good question. So Sumit is asking, should I go with task 1 or 2 writing first? Okay, the answer here, Sumit, is always go with task 1, but only spend 20 minutes on it. Okay, because that's fair. It's 1/3 of your mark, so spend 20 minutes on it. Task 2 is 2/3 of your mark, so spend 40 minutes on it. Okay, but use task 1 to warm up your writing skills. Okay, so in both the general and academic module, task 1 is easier than task 2 because they require less thinking. Okay, so task 1 in general is a narrative essay, and task 1 in the academic is an expository essay. Task 2 in both the academic and the general are persuasive essays. and persuasive essays are more difficult than expository and narrative essays usually. Okay, so IELTS, they want you to get a good score, and so they structure the questions and the information for the most part from easier to more difficult. Okay, so task 1 is easier, task 2 is more difficult. All right, so actually writing about a graph or a chart is easier than convincing somebody that they should be using electric vehicles instead of gas-powered vehicles because they're good for the environment. So start with task 1. All the information is usually there. It's more generic. It's more everyday. Task 2 is more unique. It requires more of your thinking, your interpretation, your expressive style. So definitely start with task 1. Okay? I don't care who says what. Starting with task 1 is a better idea. If you're going to lose some points for poor writing, lose it on task 1, not on task 2. Okay? So that's my answer to that, Sumit. All right. Carlos says, where can we learn the fundamentals of communication? Okay, Carlos, that's a good question. There's tons and tons of information online and in the world about improving communication, so it's a great question. Even asking that question from Mother Google is a good idea. Carlos, so even typing in, where do I learn good communication strategies? Type that into Mother Google. I'm sure she'll have some answers for you, okay? Here's an important point, Carlos. So Carlos is asking, where can I learn the fundamentals of good communication strategies? Yeah, that is a brilliant question. It sounds like a simple question, but it's a beautiful and brilliant question, Carlos. So first of all, separate communication into oral versus written, because oral and written communication are really different. What is the main difference between oral versus written communication? So let me ask you this question, okay? So firstly, separate your research into oral communication and written communication. And here I want to ask you a question, because this is a good question to ask so that you start to think about this. It's actually one that people tend to ignore oftentimes when they're communicating. What is a fundamental difference that affects written and oral communication? So what's a big difference? Okay, let me ask you a question. Okay, and I see this mistake in IELTS essays all the time when people are writing, and it seems to me like, oh, when I'm reading their response, I'm like, okay, they're writing as if they're speaking, and that's not effective. So Harwinder says oral is informal, where written is formal, I guess. Not necessarily, Harwinder. So oral communication can be formal as well. Nikhil says oral communication is kind of a natural way to convey ideas, and writing is more organized in a formal way. Yeah, so you're kind of saying what Harwinder is, but to be honest with you, a good speech, a good presentation orally or verbally is also very organized and can be very formal. The big difference is that oral communication is usually intended in real time, but written is not. So in verbal communication, the audience has a chance to interact with the speaker, but in written communication, the audience cannot interact with the speaker. So the communication must be more connected and coherent. Okay. So, and this is kind of what you see between that grade 10, grade 11, grade 12 college level of writing, is that slowly but surely students start to realize that, oh, wait a second, I have to include this point because I can't explain it in real time. So the audience, if they don't know this point, they don't have a chance to ask me. And so I have to really have in written communication step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, step 5 for the communication to be clear. In oral communication, we tend to leave out steps that we think the audience might know. So we might do like a step 1, step 3, step 4, step 6. Because we feel that those smaller steps are inherent or they're understood. And if they're not, then our audience puts up our hand and says, but Adrian, or but Mr. Speaker, how about this? Or I don't quite get that. And then the person can say, yeah, okay, I'll go into that in more detail. Okay. But in written communication, you don't have that opportunity. So written communication, and I think this is why you're saying, Harwinder and Nikhil, that it's more formal, because what you're actually talking about is that it's more concise and it's more coherent, generally speaking. Okay, so that's important to keep in mind. Okay, students, I'm going to stop there for this Q&A class. I had lots of good questions from our members. That was brilliant. And again, remember that if I didn't answer some of your questions, you can send me an email. And of course, you can check the website. So first, please check the website, because there's a lot of detailed responses in the blogs, in the forums, in the course, in the lesson videos. So it's absolutely worth the few dollars to join the premium packages by clicking the big red buttons. And it's not just a sales pitch. Yeah, it is a sales pitch. I'm selling you the product, but I'm selling it to you because I know that it will help you. Okay, so check that out. And coming up in about 30 minutes, I will host another class where we will be discussing speaking part 2, cue card. We'll look at a specific question, we'll work through it together, and we'll focus on those communication strategies of how to build up a good answer and how to communicate it clearly to your audience. Okay, so that's what we're going to be doing. Okay. Janil, you're most welcome, and I was happy to see so many students and new students as well, new members asking some questions, so thank you for that. That's brilliant. I will see you soon. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from Victoria, Canada for now, but I'll be back shortly. Bye.